Hello everyone, this is Professor DePaulo. Welcome you back to Site 265 Fully Online. And today I'm going to give you some basic instructions on how to write the method section of the APA manuscript. So first thing we're going to do is go into Brightspace, go into the written assignments, right? And here's the instructions for the method, and here's the upload link. So you're going to upload as a PDF the method section here. Let's click on the instructions. So this is really super basic compared to the introduction. So the introduction is actually one of the harder parts to write of the manuscript, or the hardest part to write. The method section is a really simple method for this study because we're just doing a survey, online survey method. So the first thing I do is I get Microsoft Word open, right? And so I want method centered in 12-point font. So not in the header. We don't want the header. We just want method. And then we want that centered 12-point font like that. Then we're going to have 3 subsections. So we're going to left justify. We're going to have participants. We're going to have materials. And then we're going to have procedure. So these are the 3 parts of the method. These are the 3 subsections. And all of this, make sure I spell it right, obviously. Participants, materials, procedure. All 3 of these are going to be in italics. So let's just highlight one at a time, make it italics, not bold, just in italics. Just like that. So we're going to start on the line below the subheading. So do not put a colon, do not put a dash. Start below the subheading, on the line below, in regular text, regular 12-point font. So participants. So this is basically how many people were in the study and what are some of the important demographic information in the study. Now, this is a pretty basic study. There weren't many participants that took the survey online this semester. For some reason, many people, i.e. like half the people in the class, did not take the survey, online survey, previously in the previous weeks. So we didn't have much data to collect. So because of this situation, since there weren't many data points, I combined this semester's data with the previous semester's data so that we actually have enough data to look at. And so we're going to write about the demographics of the data. So who was in the data? Well, the sample was made of 27 males, 100 females. We don't need to capitalize males and females. We do have to spell it correctly, though. And 3 non-binary participants. We also had the ethnicity, 23 white, 55 Hispanic or Latino, and we had 14 Asian. Sorry about that. And the last group, 37 African American. So that was the ethnic breakdown. And then the age breakdown was 18 to 58. Sorry, 58. So those are the demographics. Now you're going to put this in full sentences. So basically the sample was composed of 27 males, 100 females, and 3 non-binary students. Out of these participants, 23 identified as white, 55 Hispanic Latino, 14 Asian, 37 African American, and the age ranges of the participants were between 18 and 58. So you're going to write full sentences. So this is 2 to 3 full sentences for the participants. That's it. 2 to 3 sentences, write complete sentences. I'm listing the stuff here. You're going to write it in complete sentences. Those were the participants. The materials were just an online survey, and you want to indicate the variables that were measured. So some of the variables measured in this online survey, of course, was social connectedness. That was the main interest. You had attachment style. You had levels of depression, anxiety, GPA, empathy, and there were a bunch of other variables. So you don't have to list them all. These are some of the variables we measured, right? So you want to write this in a complete sentence or two. I would say 2 sentences here. Online survey was completed that measured these variables and other variables. Then we could put various demographic questions too. But these are the scales that were, some of the scales that were used. And then in the procedure, you're going to write basically a sentence saying that the survey was completed online. Right. So this, you don't have to put online survey here. You just put a survey and list the variables. Right. And in the procedure, you're going to write the survey was completed online. And took approximately 30 minutes to complete, something like that. And it was completed as part of a requirement for the research methods course at BMCC. That's another thing you want to put in the participant section before I stop the video, is you want to put that they were recruited from a BMC research and psychology class. Now, this seems really, really simple and really short, and it is. The reason it's this simple is because we're doing an online survey. There's not much that had to be done. The survey was completed. Ideally, we'd list all the measures and give reliabilities and validities of all these different measures we're using. But that's for a professional manuscript. I would list reliabilities and validities for all the different scales that I'm using here. But I'm not going to do that because this is just sort of a learning experience. But if I were to submit this for publication, I'd want to validate these scales, like provide information showing that these are good scales to use. So the readers, the reviewers, they say, oh, okay, use this measure. Yeah, it has good reliability, has good validity. It makes sense to use it. But for this beginning exercise, we don't need to go through reliabilities and validities because you really don't know exactly what they mean in this context. Okay, so it's a really basic assignment. Should take you 5 to 10 minutes. Method, 12-point font, centered. Participants, materials, procedures, 12-point font, italics. Start the text below and write this in a complete sentence. So you should have about 3 sentences for the participants, complete sentences. Write them all out in a paragraph form. Then you're going to leave a little space. You're going to have materials in italics. And then below that, at least 1 sentence talking about that a survey was completed. It measures these variables amongst others. Right? And then space and then procedure, and at least 1 sentence talking about the survey is completed online. It took approximately 30 minutes to complete, and it was part of the research and psychology course, Psych 265 at BMCC. So very simple assignment. There's no reason you should not get 10 of 10. This is by far the easiest part of the paper you're going to write. So get 10 out of 10 on this assignment. It makes everybody's life easy. It makes your life easier. You don't have to change it. You got it down. It makes my life easy because I don't need to explain exactly what went wrong because it's so straightforward. It shouldn't go wrong. Okay? So if you have any questions on this, reach out to me. Let me know what your questions are. I have office hours on Friday afternoons. If you can't make it that time, you need me to respond to an email, you need to meet at a different time, you have to email me and set something up. but it should be a really simple assignment that you can score 10 out of 10 on as long as you follow the formatting and write these out in complete sentences in a paragraph form, right? So full sentences containing all this information, and you should be good. So this kind of makes up for the introduction that was probably a lot harder to write, took a lot more time to write, and that's generally the case. The method section is generally much easier to write than an introduction or a discussion or even the abstract. Those tend to be a lot more tricky to write or a lot more time consuming. So, space it out. I'm going to add another space here, right? Maybe I'd subtract a space here. Space it out. Don't put it like all on top of each other. I kind of like it like that better, right? And that's it. And then save it as a PDF and then upload it. Under written assignments, you want to upload that PDF right here under the methods section under written assignments in Brightspace. And you're done. So as you're working on this, I'm going to be reading your introductions and giving you feedback. And then once you get the feedback from the introduction, you can start making the changes. And I suggest you start making the changes as the semester goes along, rather than waiting to the end of the semester to make all the changes, because then it's going to be very time consuming. You want to have the changes done before the end of the semester so you're ready to submit the revised manuscript. Okay, and that's how you write the methods section of this APA manuscript. Like I said before, if this was a publishable study that we were submitting, we would need to put in the reliabilities and validities and beef up the method section a little bit. If this was an experiment, then the method section would be completely different. We'd have, instead of materials, you'd have a whole list of what you're using in the experiment and a description of that. And the procedure section would be much more complicated. So the method section can get very complicated if you're doing a complicated study, especially an experiment where you're manipulating multiple things. If you're doing a survey, then the method section is pretty bland and basic like it is here. So hope that helps. If you have any questions, reach out to me. If not, bye for now, and I'll see you back online for the discussion section, which is a lot more challenging to write. So have a good one. If you need any help, reach out to me, please. Bye-bye.